Okay guys, we're going to pick up where we left off with chapter 20, again, chemical texture services, and we're going to talk about chemical hair relaxing and soft curl permanents or curl reforming. Okay, first we're going to get into chemical hair relaxers. Chemical hair relaxing is a process that rearranges the structure of curly hair into a straighter or smoother form. Permanent waving curls straight hair. Chemical hair relaxing does the opposite, it straightens curly hair. The most common type of chemical hair relaxer are ammonium thio, guanidine hydroxide, and sodium hydroxide. It should be noted that thio and guanidine are usually classified as a no-lye relaxer, and sodium hydroxide is considered to be a lye-based relaxer. We're going to talk about this a little bit later in the slideshow. So curly hair. There are many different varying degrees and types of curly hair. You have extremely curly hair. It grows in a long twisted spiral or coil. Cross sections are highly elliptical and vary in shape and the thickness along their lengths. Extremely curly hair usually breaks at the twist because of the weakness and the force that is put on it to straighten it. So thio relaxers. Thio relaxers use the same ATG, which is ammonium thioglycolate, just like we used in permanent waving, but at a higher concentration and a higher pH. These usually have a pH above 10. They usually have a higher concentration of ATG. They are thicker with a higher viscosity. Again, just as a reminder, viscosity measures the thickness of a product and affects how fluid flows. This is more suitable for an application of the relaxer. So this is how thick your product is or how thin your product is. Thio relaxers have a very thick viscosity. Thio relaxers also break disulfide bonds and soften the hair. After enough bonds are broken, the hair is straightened into a new shape and the relaxer is rinsed from the hair. This process is called thioneutralization. The neutralizer used with thio relaxers is an oxidizing agent, usually hydrogen peroxide, just as in permanent waving. The oxidation reaction is caused by the neutralizer, rebuilds the disulfide bonds that were broken by the thio relaxer. The thio relaxer application. The application steps are the same, just the same as those for virgin hydroxide relaxers or any hydroxide relaxer application, although the neutralization procedure is very different. Relaxer may be applied with a BOA brush or the back of a hard rubber comb. Although thio relaxers follow the same procedures, different application methods are used for virgin and retouch relaxers. We're going to get into that later on as well. Next up is Japanese thermal straighteners. These are sometimes called thermal reconditioning. It combines the use of a thio relaxer and flat ironing. Each manufacturer has slightly different procedures, so make sure you follow your manufacturer's directions per whatever product you're using. Typically, the hair is shampooed and conditioned. It is straightened and distributed evenly on the sections. It is processed desired to the curl reduction. So if you want 80% of your curl gone, you want 60% of your curl gone, that's how it's processed. Hair is thoroughly rinsed then for about 10 minutes. Hair is conditioned and blown dry. Each section is then flat ironed. This involves several passes of the iron required. Hair is then neutralized and blown dry. The service of a Japanese thermal straightener can take several hours, and it is not always appropriate for extremely curly hair or some color-treated hair. Thermal reconditioning is considered a specialty, and many manufacturers require a certification of their particular product, which means you are licensed to do this when you leave us. but due to the product and how strong it is, the safety of the product, and liability, you might would want to take a class if that product offers the certification so that you can get certified. This will also help you be more professional. It will note to your clients that you're more professional, and you can also charge more for this service. Next up is hydroxide relaxers. The hydroxide ion is the active ingredient in all hydroxide relaxers. Hydroxide relaxers include very strong alkalis with a pH over 13. This includes sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, lithium hydroxide, and guanidine hydroxide. All 4 types of hydroxide relaxers are strong alkalis that can swell the hair up to twice its normal diameter. These are not compatible with Theo relaxers. Hydroxide and Theo are not friends. They have a pH of 13 or more. Remember, guys, that pH scale goes to just 14, so that tells you how far up they are, how much of an alkaline product they are on that pH scale. Lanthanization. This is a process by which a sulfur atom is removed from the disulfide bond and converted into a lanthanide bond. The disulfide bonds that are broken by hydroxide relaxers are broken permanently, and they can never be reformed. So different types of hydroxide relaxers. Metal hydroxide relaxers. These are ionic compounds formed by metal. Sodium, potassium, lithium. They are combined with oxygen and hydrogen. Metal hydroxide relaxers include sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, and lithium hydroxide. The hydroxide ion is the active ingredient in all hydroxide relaxers. Then you have lye-based relaxers. We talked about this earlier. I noted that sodium hydroxide is a lye base. Sodium hydroxide relaxers are commonly called lye relaxers. Sodium hydroxide is the oldest and one of the most common types of hair chemical relaxers. Sodium hydroxide is also known as lye or caustic soda and can cause hair loss and skin burns if it is used incorrectly. Note that the same chemicals that are used in drain cleaners and also some of the chemical hair removers are at the same pH level. So again, we're looking at chemical burns if they're not used correctly or hair loss. No lye relaxers. This includes lithium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide. These relaxers are often advertised and sold as no mix, no lye. Although technically they are not lye, their chemistry is identical and there is very little difference in their performance. Guanidine hydroxide relaxers are also advertised and sold as no lye relaxers. Hydroxide ion is still the active ingredient. These require 2 components that have to be mixed. They straighten the hair completely. They provide less scalp irritation than other hydroxide relaxers. They are recommended for sensitive scalps. They can be sold over the counter, and they do not reduce hair damage. They swell slightly more than other hydroxide relaxers. They are also very drying to the hair. Low pH relaxers. Low pH relaxers sometimes contain sulfites and bisulfites. They are marketed as a mild alternative relaxer. They are compatible with Theo relaxers, but not compatible with hydroxide relaxers. They will not completely straighten extremely curly hair and are intended for use on color treated hair, damaged hair, and fine hair. Again, low pH. Okay, so what's the difference between a base and no base relaxer? And you'll hear this a lot. Hydroxide relaxers are usually sold in base and no base formulas. Base cream, also known as protective base cream, is an oily cream used to protect the skin and scalp during hair relaxing. Base relaxers. They require the application of a protective base cream to the entire scalp prior to the application of the relaxer. A no-base relaxer does not require the application of protective base cream. They contain a protective base cream that is designed to melt at body temperature. As the relaxer is applied, body heat then causes the protective base cream to melt and settle out onto the scalp in a thin, oily, protective coating. No-base relaxers are an improvement only on the protection that is provided to the skin by the oils in all hydroxide relaxers. For added protection, protective base cream should always be applied to the entire scalp, hairline, and around the ears, even with no base relaxers. Okay, just to review what we've talked about, I know it is a lot. I know it is very confusing. Here's a chart. This chart is also in your book. You have your sodium hydroxide with the pH of 12.5 to 13.5. This is a lye relaxer. It is very effective on extremely curly hair. It can cause scalp irritation and damage the hair. A lithium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide relaxer has a pH of 12.5 to 13.5. It is a no-mix, no-lye relaxer. It is very effective for extremely curly hair. It may cause scalp irritation and damage on the hair. A guanidine hydroxide, pH of 13 to 13.5, really high. It is a no-lye relaxer. It causes less skin irritation than other hydroxide relaxers, and with repeated use, it may dehydrate the hair. You have ammonium thioglycolate, which is the same thing used in permanent waving. The pH is 9.6 to 10. It is marketed as a Theo relaxer, a no-lye relaxer. It is compatible with soft curl permanents. Strong, unpleasant ammonia smell is given out. With repeated use, it also may dehydrate the hair. Then you have your ammonium sulfite and ammonium bisulfites, 6.5 to 8.5 on the pH scale. This is known as your low pH relaxer. It is a no-lye relaxer. Less damaging to the hair. However, the disadvantage is it does not sufficiently relax extremely curly hair. Now we're going to talk about relaxer strengths. Most come in 3 different strengths, that being mild, regular, and super. Mild is formulated for fine, color-treated, or damaged hair. This strength is also used for texturizing hair. We're going to talk about texturizing later, but that is where you leave some curl and some wave in the hair. Regular strength is intended for normal hair texture with medium natural curl. This is the most commonly used strength and often produces a smooth, straight result. Super is used for maximum strengthening on extremely curly or coarse hair. Periodic strand testing. This actually takes place during the actual relaxer application. Periodic strand testing during the actual application processing time varies according to the strength of the relaxer, the hair type, and the condition. You may stretch the strand to determine if the curls are removed, or you may smooth and press the strand to the scalp with the back of the comb. If the strand remains smooth, it is sufficiently relaxed. If the curl returns, continue processing. Hydroxide neutralization. An acid-alkali neutralization that neutralizes or deactivates the alkaline residue left in the hair by a hydroxide relaxer and lowers the pH of the hair and scalp. A hydroxide relaxer neutralization does not involve oxidation or rebuilding the disulfide bonds. Hair is going to remain at a high pH. However, you can use an acid-balanced shampoo to pull that pH down. Rinsing it alone is not going to neutralize the relaxer. The acid balance shampoo or normalizing lotion will neutralize what is remaining in the hair. Hydroxide relaxers. Although the same procedure is used for all hydroxide relaxers, application methods vary according to virgin and retouch applications. A virgin relaxer application. I know you guys have had this, you've passed your core evaluation on virgin relaxer applications, but I just want to speak to you and talk to you just to refresh you. A virgin relaxer application should be used for hair that has not had previous chemical relaxer service. Since the scalp area and the porous ends will usually process more quickly than the middle of the strand, the application for a virgin relaxer starts 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch away from the scalp and includes the entire strand up into the porous ends. To avoid overprocessing and scalp irritation, do not apply the relaxer to the hair closest to the scalp or to the ends until the last few minutes of processing. A retouch application, again just as a refresher. A retouch relaxer application should be used for hair that has previously received a chemical relaxer service. The application for a retouch relaxer starts 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch away from the scalp and includes only the new growth. To avoid overprocessing and scalp irritation, do not apply relaxer to the hair closest to the scalp until the last few minutes of processing. The relaxer should never be applied to hair that is already relaxed. A texturizing service. And I mentioned this earlier and told you we were going to get more in depth. This is removing some but not all of the curl and wave. A texturizing service uses a hydroxide relaxer to reduce the curl pattern by degrees using a mild strength relaxer. The procedure for texturizing is similar to that for relaxing virgin hair, and the same precautions apply. Only the product is gently combed through using a large tooth comb. This allows you to observe the curl pattern as it relaxes the curl and creates a natural curly style. Texturizing makes combing and styling tightly coiled hair much easier. Using base cream, protective cream, and normalizing products. Most relaxers recommend the application of base cream to protect the entire scalp. For a retouch, most manufacturers recommend applying a protective cream or oil to previously relaxed hair to treat the hair and prevent it from being overlapped. Contemporary hair relaxing often includes the application of a normalizing or conditioning lotion after thoroughly rinsing the relaxer out of the hair and prior to using the neutralizing shampoo. A normalizing lotion is a conditioner with an acidic pH that restores the hair pH before the final neutralizing shampoo. Neutralizing shampoo. That is an acidic shampoo designed to restore the natural pH of the hair and scalp. Some produce a color signal that turns pink if any relaxer residue remains in the hair and turns white when all the relaxer is finally rinsed out of the hair. So rinse thoroughly. We're going to go over some safety precautions. Some of these safety precautions are going to be those are the same that you've seen in permanent waving. Some are a little bit different. So I'm going to go through those. There are quite a few of them. There are 27 of them. So hang tight with me. Perform a thorough hair analysis and client consultation prior to the service. Very important. Examine the scalp for abrasions. Do not proceed with the service if there is redness, swelling, or skin lesions are present. Examine the hair for signs of breakage, damage, extreme dryness. Do not proceed with the service if these conditions are present. Do not apply a hydroxide relaxer that has been treated with a Theo relaxer. Vice versa, Theo and hydroxide do not get along. Do not apply a Theo relaxer or soft curl perm to hair that has been treated with a hydroxide relaxer. Do not chemically relax hair that has been treated with a metallic dye. Do not chemically relax hair that is 2 shades lighter than the natural hair color with permanent color. Do not relax hair that has been highlighted or decolorized with bleach. Do not relax color-treated hair that has been processed with 30 or 40 volume developer. Do not shampoo the client prior to the application of the hydroxide relaxer. The reason they say that is you do not want to interrupt or scratch their scalp or anything like that, because the pH is so strong and the product is so strong that they will start burning. Apply a protective base cream to avoid scalp irritation. The client's hair and scalp has to be completely dry prior to the application of a hydroxide relaxer. Wear gloves. If any solution accidentally gets into the client's eyes, flush the eye immediately with cool water and refer the client to a doctor. Do not allow chemical relaxers to accidentally come in contact with the client's ears, their scalp, or their skin. Conduct periodic strand tests during the service to monitor the hair's progression. Avoid scratching the scalp with your comb or fingernails. Do not overlap relaxer onto previously relaxed hair during a retouch application. Always use proper relaxer strength for hair type as recommended by the manufacturer to avoid hair breakage. Do not process hair longer than indicated by the manufacturer's directions. Thoroughly rinse the relaxer from the hair using warm water. Failure to rinse properly can cause skin irritation, possible hair loss, breakage, and damage. Using neutralizing shampoo to guarantee that the hair and scalp has been restored to their normal pH. Always apply conditioner and comb through using a wide tooth comb after the relaxer service. This is going to eliminate any excessive stretching and removing of tangles. Use caution while styling with hot tools on relaxed hair, as they may become dehydrated and break. Keep an accurate, detailed client record of the services performed and the results achieved. Have the client sign a release statement indicating that he or she understands possible risk related to the service. You are expected to have a thorough understanding of hair relaxant application, chemical compositions, and precautionary and aftercare procedures before performing a relaxer service. Okay, next up we're going to talk about keratin-based straightening treatments. I have also given you guys a link to go and research, 2 links actually, to go and research about the keratin straightening treatment to see what your point of view is on that as one of your lessons. This is something that you hear a lot about. This is a big money maker, but I also want to give you the full story on a keratin straightening treatment, the good and the bad, so that you can make your own decision whether you would like to perform these in the salon. A keratin-based straightening treatment is also called a Brazilian treatment. It contains silicone polymers and formalin or similar ingredients which release formaldehyde gas when heated to a very high temperature. Keratin straightening treatments work by fixing the keratin in place in a semi-permanent manner. They do not break the bonds. It does eliminate up to 95% of the frizz and curl, and it does last 3 to 5 months. So how does it work? Once the treatment is applied, the hair is blown dry and flat ironed at 450 degrees. It is used on narrow sections one by one to polymerize a coating on the hair. Each section is then flat ironed several times, and the procedure takes about 2 hours or more if you have very dense hair. You must have proper ventilation. The formaldehyde released during the process has the potential to exceed the maximum concentration that is allowed by OSHA. Reminder, OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Local source ventilation is recommended, particularly because flat ironing takes place so close to both the client's hair and face and the stylist's face, and because the stylist may be exposed to formaldehyde for very long periods of time. Because the coating breaks down over time, the client can be exposed to released vapors even when the treatment itself is complete. This is why they recommend that the client wait at least 72 hours after the treatment before taking a shower. Within this time period, the steam and heat from the shower can accelerate the release of those formaldehyde vapors. How effective is this treatment? Generally, keratin straightening treatments eliminate up to 95% of the frizz and curl, last 3 to 5 months. They are not usually appropriate for extremely tight coiled hair. This is an advanced treatment. However, no certification is required. Nevertheless, most manufacturers do offer specialized training in both the service and the aftercare. Again, if a certification is offered, get this. It makes you more professional. You know everything about the product. You can answer questions for your client. It allows you to be able to tell the client what they can do at home to maintain this keratin straightening treatment, and also how to care for their hair so that it's not damaged in the future. It also allows you to charge more for the treatment. So we're going to start with a detailed consultation. Very important. It is essential to conduct a detailed consultation before performing a straightening service so that the client will understand what to expect from the service based upon the condition of hair, chemical history, and what degree of curl they would like to achieve or take out. We're also looking at preconditioning. Do we have to do that? We may have to equalize the porosity, and I'm going to go into that a little bit further. You need to discuss the following with the client. Their recent hair history, including all chemical treatments that may still be on their hair, and any products that they use. And when you guys have a conversation, this is where we use our knowledge with our clients. You guys have a conversation with your client, what is your recent hair history? Recent to them could be 2 weeks, 3 months. Your hair, we know, grows roughly at a half an inch a month. That is 6 months a year. So if their hair is 18 inches long, anything that's been on that hair over the past 3 years is going to be relevant to us. You need to discuss home care maintenance during the 3-day, 72-hour period after the service is performed. Usually the hair cannot be shampooed for 3 days after the service. With most systems, the client should avoid getting into any moisture for 72 hours. If the hair gets damp, you must blow dry immediately. Go over lightly with a flat iron in low heat setting. The client needs to wear his or her hair down. They should not use pins, clips, ponytail holders, or sunglasses to hold their hair back. The hair must remain in a straight position for 72 hours to maintain its new straightness. Determine the length and density of the client's hair before quoting a price. Okay, so let's go back to preconditioning. Preconditioning is meant to equalize the porosity of the hair. When you're taking it, we want to take it to a healthier level. For hair that is extremely over-processed, damaged, or very curly, a shampoo and deep condition prior to beginning the service is required. Permanent color, highlights, and keratin straightening treatments. How do they come into play? Clients may have permanent hair color or highlighting services before the keratin straightening treatment is applied. For toners, demi-gloss, and keratin straightening treatments, if the client wishes to have a demi-gloss treatment, it should be done at least 3 to 5 days after the keratin treatment to prevent color loss and to avoid wetting the newly straightened hair. All right, guys, we're wrapping up the hair relaxer section, and we're going to talk about soft curl permanence or curl reforming. Curl reforming does not straighten the hair. It simply makes an existing curl larger and looser. A soft curl permanent is a Theo-based chemical service that reformats curly and wavy hair into looser and larger curls and waves. Reformation occurs by wrapping the hair on rods. Often, this type of chemical service is referred to as a curl or curly perm. Soft curl permanents use ATG, which is ammonium thioglycolate, and oxidation neutralizers, just as a Theo permanent wave. Okay, so let's talk about safety precautions. Again, some of these are the same as permanent waving, some are the same as relaxers, some are a little bit different. Perform a thorough hair and scalp analysis and client consultation. Hair needs to be in relatively good condition. Examine the scalp for abrasions. Do not proceed to service if there is redness, swelling, or skin lesions are present. Keep accurate and detailed client records of the service performed and the results achieved. Have the client sign a release statement indicating that he or she understands the possible risk related to the service. Do not apply a hydroxide relaxer on the hair that has been previously treated with a Theo relaxer. Do not apply a Theo relaxer or soft curl perm on the hair that has been previously treated with a hydroxide relaxer. Do not chemically relax the hair that has been treated with metallic dye. Do not relax overly damaged hair. Suggest instead a series of reconstruction treatments to get the hair back to where it should be. This will also gain you a little bit of income to make up for that reforming service that you could not perform. Do not shampoo the client prior to the application of a hydroxide relaxer. The client's hair and scalp must be completely dry and free from perspiration prior to the application of a hydroxide relaxer. Apply a base cream to avoid scalp irritation. Wear gloves. If any solution accidentally gets into the client's eye, flush immediately with cool water. Refer them to a doctor. Do not allow chemical relaxers to accidentally come into contact with the client's ears, scalp, or skin. Avoid scratching the scalp with your comb or fingernails. When performing a hair relaxer service, be sure to not overlap onto previously relaxed hair. Apply this to new growth only. Thoroughly rinse the chemical relaxer from the hair. Failure to rinse properly can cause excessive skin irritation and possible hair breakage. Follow the manufacturer's instructions closely when applying a chemical relaxer. Use a neutralizing shampoo to guarantee that the hair and scalp have been restored to their normal pH. Okay, let's review a little bit. Products which are used to relax overly curly hair formulated with sodium hydroxide, ammonium thioglycolate, which is your Theo, or acid-based relaxers. Thorough hair and scalp examinations and evaluations are critical prior to giving any type of chemical service, including chemical relaxers. You must place the client's safety first and foremost. In addition, a thorough analysis will aid you in determining what type of product, what strength of product you need on the client's hair. Chemical relaxing can be done routinely and safely as long as the stylist is careful to follow the prescribed procedures and the manufacturer's directions and perform frequent test curls during the service to prevent the overprocessing. All right, guys, so that is all for Chapter 20, Chemical Texture Services.